And just like that, we're live.
Welcome to another show. Welcome to another Insiders Elite. This Saturday, we have a very special guest and friend on to talk about persistence, because he's the epitome of persistence with his new book that he released. He's been working on it for some 12 years, and he's stuck with it, and it is fantastic. Martin, welcome on show.
Thanks, guys. Lovely to be with you again. Totally juiced, Jamie. Absolutely pumped to be here.
Love it. So glad to have you on, brother. You know, we did a show last week and we talked all about persistence, why persistence is needed for business. And what's really great is we got thinking about you. Of course, the three of us, although we haven't officially met, we haven't had the opportunity to meet. I think, Mick, you and Martin were just about there. You were just about there, but someone decided to show up virtually. I tell you. Nonetheless, even though we haven't had that opportunity to meet, we've connected. We've become very, very, very close friends. And Mick and I were talking. We said, we've got to have Martin on, because working 12 years on a book to get to this place. My God, if that's not persistence, I don't know what is.
Yeah, look, persistence in business, we talked about last week. It is absolutely critical, because times will get tough. And I'm sure we'll hear in Martin's story how persistence played a huge role in getting that book out. And that's something I'd love to hear, is Martin's story and the journey with the book. Martin, why don't you start with sharing a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to write a book and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, it's kind of thanks, guys. And it's kind of a story that's pretty personal, because when I'm back at school, I was always good at English, right? I was pretty much crap at everything else, but English was something that I was really good at. And so I always knew that I had a book in me. And I remember at the age of 10, I started you wouldn't remember, you guys, because you're too young, but there's this thing called a typewriter that you used to use, and you had carbon paper. Exactly right. So I remember when I was about 10, I started tapping out this little tomb on a typewriter, and got about 4 pages in, and it was kind of bedaggy. But anyway, and then I'd always wanted to write a book. And it wasn't until I left my first marriage, and I thought, I got this time on my hands. It was 2008. Got time on my hands. I remember it was rain. I was up in the hills. I was raining one day, and I said, "Why don't you just start the book?" And I thought, this sounds like a good idea. And when you're writing something, they say, "How do you start writing something?" Or you write about something, right? And so my background is that I used to row for New Zealand at World Championships and Commonwealth Games and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, well, I know that. So the first page of the book, you're in the Olympic final, and I'm describing the last 250 meters and what that felt like. And I read it back and I thought, that's not half bad. And I thought, But what next? And so I finished that bit, and I put and then it happens. And then what happens? I had no idea, because I don't write with a storyline in mind, right? I figured this out. It's part of my ADHD kicking in. So the book just started there, and then it happened. And there's a lot more to it. But the funny story is that when I'd finished the book and it went through its first editing process, the editor said, at the end of all these chapters, you said, and then it happened. It didn't sound like you knew where you were going with it. I said, well, I didn't. well, you need to remove that bit. So that's how it all started. And because it was about the Olympics in 2008, I thought, I know what? It's a good idea. I'm going to have this out in time for the 2012 London Olympics. Because it's actually the book is actually written in London, so it's based on the London Olympics. So I thought, I'll have it out in time for the London Olympics. Yeah, right.
It took a little bit longer than that, but that's really where that piece of persistence came in. So I got to ask about this, because you had the goal. It was to come out in 2012. You knew it. We get to 2012. We get to the Olympics, and it's not done. It's not ready to go. How did you keep going? What was it? How'd you know?
I'm big on keeping anything that I try to do, or anything that, rephrase that, anything that I set out to do, I do. If I tell myself I will do it, then I hold myself accountable for what I do. And so it was always going to get done. Whether it was 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, I was always going to finish it. But it was like this fucking stone you have in your shoe. Mm-hmm. It's just, still haven't done it. And I'm not a sort of writer. I can't sit down and just write for days. The one thing about me is that because of I'm very lightly blessed with the gift of ADHD. So I get distracted very, very easily. So if I sit down in my home to write something, if the washing's not done, if there's any distraction at all, I just can't write because I get distracted. So my thing is I sit down, I write for an hour, got it. And the best time for me to write is if I go away. So I'll go away, there's no distractions. That's the best time for me to write. And so then it was just constantly just another chapter here or another chapter there. Or when the move, some of the best bits I actually wrote at work, where it'd be raining outside and I have CBF. I know what I'll do. I'll write a chapter of the book. So that would happen. And then I got this thing called writer's block. And yeah, I got the. So what I really enjoy about this book is that there's so many characters in it. The thing I really loved about is developing the backstory for the characters. Like, how does a terrorist become a terrorist? How does a hero become a hero? How do all the protagonists? How does a retired MI6 agent? And I've got a retired MI6 Italian agent called Fabrizio. He's in it. And how did he get involved in the story? What's his backstory? Yeah. And so I really loved writing the backstories, right? And then I had all these plot lines coming together, and I'm going, I couldn't see how I could possibly bring all these storylines together because the book has to finish at some point. And so the book sat like for 3 years.
Wow.
And it was just this, I'm feeling it now. It was just this major frustration because it's there and you want to get it finished. And because I'm in sales, you know, I figured the fun part for me is now. The fun part for me was when I sold it, because I figured that even if it was a crap book, which it's not, by the way, but even if it was a crap book, I'd still sell a lot of them, right? So then it became, okay, what do I do now? And so I decided one day, I went back to my favorite destination, which is a little town in Victoria called Walhalla. It's an old gold mining settlement, and the permanent population of 28. I stayed in an old miner's hut from the 1800s with an open fire, and I wrote the end. So I decided I'd write the end. So I wrote the end of the book, and then all of a sudden I could see, now I can see. Now I could actually figure out how it all came together.
Awesome.
And then I was away again.
That's a phenomenal approach to seeing how to get there. And Martin, from a business perspective, sometimes you come up with this idea and you can't see how to get there. What was it that opened that up for you to be able to see the path? Just writing the end, like we picture how we want it in the future, but what were some of the things you used to help see that path to get you there from point A to point B?
I think the thing was all of a sudden because I'd written the end, I could see it finished. I think it was as simple as that. The book's finished. So now all I have to do is the middle bit. All of a sudden it wasn't a problem anymore because I'd finished it. So it was a really basic mindset thing around, okay, so now it's done. Now I work backwards. And it's interesting because when I'm in the sales coaching role, this is exactly how the last month I've been doing so many sales budgets with people, because people don't, we're going to tack into business for a bit, but people don't have sales budgets, right? So it's the last thing that people do. It's the new financial year, folks. If you don't have a sales budget, kick yourself up the ass. So, but how do I do that? So I say to people, right, so in 12 months' time, in July 2022, when you look back on 21-22 financial year, what's your sales number? What have you done? Okay, so it's $1 million. Great. And how's that made up? Well, it's made up of $600,000 customers, $4 $50,000. Great. Okay. How are we going to onboard those customers? And then you build it backwards.
Mm.
It's exactly what I did with the book, which in hindsight's a realization I've literally just had now.
Yeah.
Because it's how I teach selling is how I actually. Okay, right. That's why it happened.
Mind blown. And what's so great about that is I'm giving another listen to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich again. I don't know how many times I've listened to this book over and over and over. And one of the things he talks about, it's actually in chapter 4, he talks about just seeing it, just going to that place where it's already done. Because our brain, it's wicked powerful. It's incredibly, amazingly powerful when you can see the end of the book. When you can see the outcome that you want, when you can see how many sales you've done in that year, all you really have to do, because this brain, no matter what you ask it, it's going to answer the questions, right? One of our big challenges is we ask a lot of the wrong questions. Why can't I get this? Why is this so hard? Why is it so difficult? When we change our questions, we change everything. Like, so what did I have to do to get here to achieve this $1 million? What did I have to do to get here to have this book fully written? What all did we have to do to arrive at this destination? And when you ask that question, you're going to get the answers. You will literally manifest those answers. I mean, two things in the universe, right? There's energy and there's matter. That's it, right? You can bring that stuff to fruition simply by getting really clear and asking those right questions. Seeing the connection, seeing that continuity between what you did, Martin, and business and outcomes and goal setting and everything. It's all the same. That's a massive, massive takeaway right there.
Mm. And, because most business owners, in regards to their sales budget, I will say to people, so what do you say? What's your sales budget for next year? Oh, look, we'll do 10% more, or we'll do 15% more. Great. Flog me with a wet train ticket. That's about as impactful as that. So, but how are you going to get there? There's no, but as soon as you then drill it back and figure out what you've got to do. And when it's interesting because someone will say, I want to increase it by 10%. But when you build your sales budget from the ground up a year in advance, the number that spits out is always more than that. It's always more than what they presupposed it to be. And when you have it written down, you can go, you know what? That actually, I can do that.
Yep.
Whereas at the start of the financial year, most businesses go into overwhelm thinking, oh, Jesus, we've just had a really good year. And now I've got to do it all again. Deep breaths. It's because they just don't have a roadmap. Anyway, that's my little rant. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But you may think, guys, that when I finished the book, that the book writing journey was over. Oh, no. That's when the fucking persistence really kicked in, because then I had to get it edited.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what this process was like. And I don't do details. I'm not the detail guy. And so the first thing that happens is you get the book, and it's called a developmental edit. So an editor goes through the book line by freaking line, paragraph by freaking paragraph. And this isn't a spell check. This is context. Why is this here? What this look like? This guy is, because I've got a lot of different accents in the book. How can you tell? You haven't got enough females in the book. It's just this whole thing. So that first developmental edit, it was like poking my eyes out with hot pokers. And the developmental edit took 18 months.
Wow.
And it was just horrible. It was horrible, but it was fun at the same time because the book completely changed. It wasn't a complete rewrite, but it really started to mold the story into what it is now. The first edition, the first rendition, you started out in the Olympic final, the last 250 meters. That piece of the book is now the last page of section 1. So there's 88 pages that have been put in before that. And so it was restructured, and that developmental edit. Oh my God. And I remember having many discussions with my editor, just telling her that I didn't like her very much.
And I'm going to ask because even as you're talking about this, Martin, like I'm cringing. Like I can feel it because I know what I'd be like. You get that edit back, you think you've got it all, and again, we're maybe not the most detailed people, right? We get the high level picture out, we get it out there. Okay, let's go, and you get all this stuff back. My God, persistence must have had to kick in at that point to keep you going. Like what did you do from ripping your hair out or just getting right pissed off? How did that work?
I did rip hair out and I did get pissed off.
Yeah.
But that was all okay. That was part of the journey because anyone that knows me knows that, number one, I'm an impatient motherfucker. And number two, that for most things, close enough is good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's close enough.
Yeah.
It's close enough. And it was very tempting to go, that's close enough.
Yeah.
But something inside me said, you know what? If you're going to put yourself out there to the world, close enough is not good enough. And so then I started to view my editor as my coach instead of my nemesis. And then I started reading bits of it back and getting the feedback. And it started to become okay. And she was very patient with me, Gemma. She was very patient with me. And so then that developmental edit was done. But that's not the end of it. So the developmental edit gets done. And then you have to take it to another editor for what they call a line edit, which is it's not about plot line or storyline. It's more about grammatical things and questions and stuff like that. And that didn't take so long, thankfully. That was like a 4-month process. And then it goes to the spelling grammatical checker with the full stops and all that sort of stuff. Then it goes to the layout person who lays it out. And I'm very fortunate that I found a layout person that worked for Bryce Courtney, who's a very famous Australian author. She designed the cover for me, which looks banging, and did all the interior stuff. Then it goes back to the line editor again to make sure the page breaks, and then fucking finally it's ready. Oh my God!
Wow. What a process!
So it's a process.
Wow, that is phenomenal. What a unbelievable process. And I too am not a details person, so I really feel your pain, and I'm going to take that on board as that mindset shift to see her as a coach instead of the nemesis. Because when somebody critiques my work, I'm like, look at all this, going to go back and fix it. I fully get that. Was there ever a point where you're like, you know what, stuff it, it's all too hard? And if there was, how did you get past that point?
No, never. Giving up doesn't occur. I've never given up. I don't give up. I'm fortunate. That's in my DNA. And, I was thinking this morning about, because we were talking about persistence, and I'm going back through my life, and I've demonstrated persistence since I was knee high to a grasshopper, and in business. And a funny story, a business story, sales story. Salespeople are persistent anyway, right? Because you get told no a lot. So we've got to be persistent. But I remember early in my sales career, I was selling to golf courses, and I called in on the Eastern Golf Club at St. Q here in Melbourne. And I remember calling on the superintendent's name was Jim, and he said he's a rough guy, and he said to me, Martin, he said, just to let you know that I'm friends with your competitor. There is no way I'm ever buying from you. You can't get more of a definitive no than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was 23 and I said, Jim, congratulations. You've just become my project. So every time I drive by this place, I'm dropping in. There'll be a point in time when you buy something from me. So I was then persistent. And so then every time I drove past the Q Golf Club, I'd pop in and he just wouldn't crack. And then there was this moment I'll never forget, because this is 30-something years ago now. It was a Friday afternoon. It was 3 o'clock. It was pissing down rain. I'd pulled into the car park. I had to walk across wet fairways, and I'm thinking, and I just, no, do it. Okay. So off I went to the greenkeeper shed. Where's Jim? I was down the back chopping wood. And I'm thinking, and I was halfway back to my car, and I thought, no, turn around. So I walked down the back of the bloody golf course, sounds of a chainsaw. And I get there, and Jim looks up, and he says, this is going to cost me an order, isn't it? I said, you fucking better right it is. So he put the story gets better. So he puts me on the back of his bike, his motorbike. And of course, mud just goes straight up my back because it's wet. We get into his greenkeeping shed. He breaks out the perch. So he said, I'm just making a phone call. Back then, we didn't have mobile phones, so it was the old, the corded one. And he's, hey, Bruce. And Bruce was the competitor, right? And Bruce is actually a friend of mine. Bruce, just letting you know, Martin's got all my business. Even though we catch up every week for beers, you never call on me. So I had his business until he retired from the golfing industry. But that's a simple thing about persistence, people. Yeah. Persistence pays.
Yeah, look, some of the best sales reps that I've come across in my business are persistent. They come and visit every trip, whether you order off them or not. They come and be persistent. And then when a big opportunity comes up, they're the first one you look to because they're there. They call in on you. They drop in and say hello. They catch up with you. You know, they're persistent. And I can 100% relate with that greenskeeper in his approach there. Like, while you might see these other people, they're not persistent. They don't call in and stop in on you. That's a phenomenal story.
Yeah, but persistence is all about mindset. You know, when I was rowing, you know, in 1984 it would have been. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I was the best rower in the country in my grade, right? And so we went to trials, and I knocked it out of the park in the seat racing. I won everything, and I didn't get in the crew. I wasn't selected. And I was absolutely devastated, particularly because I had to drive 2.5 hours back from the destination in the car alone with one of the goddamn selectors that didn't select me. And I just chose not to say anything. Didn't say it. So I didn't mention it. I didn't mention the war. And, you know, I thought, you know what? This thing was, fuck you, you know, is this sport for me? I thought, no, it is. And so then I thought, okay, asshole, there's no way next year, there is absolutely no way you're not going to select me. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that you just cannot overlook me next year. And so that winter, I just smashed it with weights, with everything that I could. And the next time came to trials in 1985, there was no possible way they could leave me out because I was topped off absolutely the seat racing, the rowing testing, everything. There was no way they could leave me out, and they didn't. And so then it was kind of, but that was all about persistence again. Mm-hmm. 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 The thrill of the challenge, right? This is a challenge because persistence comes from challenge. Yeah. If you don't like challenge or you don't embrace challenge, then persistence is going to be hard. If you do enjoy challenge, then persistence is actually easy because you got the eye on the prize.
That's phenomenal. Business owners should take a massive, massive lesson from that. Any business owners that are watching, 24 minutes, 45 seconds, go back and watch the 30 seconds before that. Yeah. The most important bit there that Martin said is he got knocked back. And instead of saying, oh, I'll stuff them, getting angry, blaming them, he went, right, what can I do so that they cannot overlook me? Whatever it is in business, well, what can I do so there's no other option but for me to be successful? What can I do? Martin took absolute accountability. So business owners, listen to that bit. That's the most impactful, I feel, in the last 25 minutes. Yeah. Wow, that is phenomenal, Martin.
And it's good to be in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what business owners build things. Business owners, being a business owner is challenging by design. I mean, we're all a bunch of crazy dudes getting into business. I mean, everyone thinks it's easy. Everyone looks at it, oh, you're self-employed? Oh, you run your own business? Wow, you must be doing well. Really?
Right. It's that challenges into opportunities that I really love as well. You saw that challenge, that one thing that was holding you back. You said, no, this is actually my opportunity to actually go get better. I will make sure that no matter what, come hell or high water, that there's no way they cannot select me next year. And you went and did that. That mindset, because that really is a mindset, right? Persistence is a state. Persistence is a belief. Adopting that and bringing it into our everyday is going to make all the difference. Look, like I'm sure all three of us do, Jocko Willink, right? Extreme Ownership. I follow him on social media there. He did a quick little video and he's like, yeah, people are asking me, what's my morning ritual? What is it that I do? How do I get out of bed? This and that. He goes, I don't have a ritual. I go do shit that I don't want to do. I go do things that are challenging. I go do things that are hard, the stuff that I want to put off. Because that's really, truly how you grow, how we all grow. Persistence comes not from just accepting mediocrity, not from just saying, it's okay. Persistence comes from doing the shit you don't love, from doing the things that are hard, right? Martin, writing the book, getting onto the rowing team, doing those things. It wasn't just an ordinary average person that could do that. You showed a level of being truly uncommon among the uncommon to be able to get that. You had to have that want, that desire. One of the things that you said, I want to come back to here, because I just think it's so impactful. And I'd like to get a little bit more on that. You talked about the idea of never quitting, never giving up. Like, it's not in your DNA. Now, how could someone learn to do that? What do you think? What would be some tips, some tricks, some strategies to employ to really build that up, to say, you know what, I'm never quitting no matter what? How can I build that?
I think it's number one, quitting is easy. Mm-hmm. And in business, by the sheer fact that you're in business, you've already demonstrated a great degree of resilience to leave your day job and to set something up. So by default, you've already got non-quitting in your DNA. And then it just comes down to how you take on challenges and difficulties. Have I had failures in my life? Challenges that have come up that have been insurmountable? Absolutely. But I don't take that as quitting. When I had to put my business into liquidation in 2018, and when I was actually talking with Kerwin Ray at the time, I was fortunate because I was in the middle of it in 2018, and I was sitting next to him for dinner one night in LA. And he said to him, "What's your biggest Kerwin said, what's your biggest roadblock to moving forward?" I said, "Oh, it's the fear of failure." And he just said to me, "Who says you're failing?" And okay, so I do. Okay. Right. So as soon as I removed that "I'm failing" frame, I now look back on those challenges that I went through, but it was never going to get me down. It was never going to stop me. It was just a temporary postponement, which actually brought me to here. So now I look back and I go, I never would be here now doing what I love doing, helping small businesses with their sales every day. I wouldn't be living my passion if I didn't go through that. That was actually part of the journey of persistence, because what it did, it gave me the ability to go, okay, so when your business closes, what am I going to do now? Mm-hmm. What do you do? Like 50? Shit, I'm unemployable. I couldn't work for anybody. Well, that's wrong. I just have my way of doing things, right? So what do I do? And then you go into, what do I love? Well, I love selling. Okay, so how do you make selling? Because how my business got into difficulty is that in small business, and this is a great lesson for small business, as you grow a small business, because the small business that I was in, we were doing like 10 million, something like that. And all of a sudden I became the accountant. I became the finance guy. I became all these other roles. And I abdicated what I love to do, which is selling to other people. And these other things I wasn't great at. So when all of a sudden you're faced with this big financial black hole and you go, how the hell did that happen? Completely my responsibility, completely my fault. But oops, finance wasn't my thing. It is now. I'm aware now. But it allowed me to focus on, okay, what do I want to do? I wanted to sell. Great. So how do I make that my business 100% of the time? Which then led into the sales strategist. And now, holy crap, living my purpose, living my mission, living my dream, and it all came through persistence. So to business owners, I would say you all have that ability not to quit. Just choose not to fucking quit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a mindset. Quitting is easy. You know, a year ago, we had Hal Elrod as part of the K2 thing, and it's the morning showers. No, what does he do? Morning showers? Cold showers? No, that's Wim Hof.
Wim Hof.
So I decided 12 months ago that I do cold showers, and I love my showers, right? But I told myself that I'm going to do my cold shower every day. The stupid thing I did back then is I didn't say for how long. So a year on, I'm still doing. And I hate the cold showers every day. I'm in the shower every day. Is this the day when I don't do it? No, it's not. The only escape that I did was at winter. In summer, I went camping, and it was freezing outside. And I thought, you know what? The only way that I can get out of a cold shower is not to actually have a shower. So I got creative. So I didn't have a shower for 3 days because it was just freezing. I didn't want to. So I just don't shower. But it's just that mindset of, because when I'm in that zone, I say to myself, so you don't want to do a shower? Just wake up. You told yourself you'd do it. Mm-hmm. And when I say to myself, you said you would, that's enough for me to go on, because I will hold myself accountable to what I say I will do. And anyone that works for me knows I will damn well hold them accountable as well.
Yeah.
Because my two highest values, do what you say you're going to do and turn up on time. That's it. If my customers do both of those things, I haven't got a problem.
Wow.
So that's it. Just do what you say you're going to do, people.
That's a really powerful value to have, and that's something that business owners and I myself had struggled with at times, is committing to lots of little things, and I'll do the big things but not the little things. And I had, being a part of the Kerwin Ray program, something they called me out and said, well, what's commitment? And maybe really consider what commitment is. And now, it doesn't matter how big or small the commitment is. If you say you're going to do it, you do it.
Yep.
And that's something that all business owners need to do 100%. So if there's something that you struggle with commitment, or with doing what you say you're going to do, or following through, then that needs to be done. That's something you need to shift immediately. That's one of the biggest things with persistence, with all the things that Martin's been talking about today. So that's huge.
Look, and I also think too that the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Right? The more you do it, the more you make it a habit. Right? If I don't think I can, if I think it's going to be hard, then I must. If I think it's going to be difficult, if I think it's going to be a challenge, then I must. When you build that, call it a mantra, call it whatever you want to call it, but when you build that mindset of resiliency, that mindset of persistence, what used to be a challenge now becomes fun. And when you can change the meaning behind it from something that's, oh my God, I could never do that, that's just way too much work, too hard, to, you know what, this motherfucker's going to teach me something, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to get better because of it, change the meaning behind it, you'll attack it. At least that's what I do.
Mm.
So I'm curious, Jamie. So where's a time in your life where you've had to demonstrate just persistence to get to a final goal?
Oh my God. Even this week has been it has been a really interesting week. We've been putting in some 12, 13, 14 hour days here at work. I'm putting a couple things together. I'm running Kerwin's ad strategy and all that right now. So I got that all up today. Everything's running and all that. And because I've worked with some other folks before, they didn't really have that on point. They didn't really understand exactly what I was trying to do. The marketing didn't go out there, and it could have been easy to say, you know what, fuck it. The marketing's not for me. I'm not going to market my stuff out there, right? It's just not working. It could have been way too easy to do that. But instead of doing that, I'm like, you know what? maybe I don't have that exact right person now, but am I going to let that hold me back? Am I going to let that stop me from getting this thing out there, from really letting people know how I can really help them with their businesses? I'm like, that'd be crazy. That'd be absolutely stupid to stop. So number one, I had the right purpose behind it all. And when I say purpose, you guys, both of you know what I'm talking about here. When I had that purpose behind me, when I had that why, that driving force, it literally, I became unstoppable. To be here, I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning, 4:45 in the morning. Boom, I'm on the train. I'm getting here downtown. I'm here in the office before 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm not leaving till sometimes 7:30 at night. Today, like I'll tell you what happens. Hey, guys, I've been dragging my ass today. I'm not going to lie, even though it looks like I've got all the energy now. I'm being an energy vampire feeding from both of you guys. But quite literally, I was dragging my ass before I came on here. But I'm like, no, I'm doing this. I'm making this happen. I'm going to have all the energy that I need. It's that persistence, getting it up. What have I got now? I've got 3-4 different landing pages. I've got some split testing that I had set up and all that. I've got the full-on ad campaign. I have all the 5 videos done, the ebooks done, the landing page. All that stuff is done. And you guys, that's a fairly, it's a fairly big project to get it done, to get it all up there, to get it all posted, everything like that. We rocked it out. We basically crushed that out in 2-3 days. So that's the power of persistence. That's when you set a standard, when you say, I'm doing this, nothing's stopping me, nothing's getting in my way. Success is my only motherfucking option. Thanks, Eminem. That's really what it was for me. Success became my only option. Failure, there's no such thing as failure. When you eliminate failure, when you eliminate it from even being a possibility, success then becomes that only option.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, Mick? Where have you demonstrated persistence?
Lots of times, actually, Martin, and probably the most powerful was my university degree. So I did an MBA a few years ago. I finished that in 2017, and I did that while 2 of my kids were born, with newborns in the house. Massive 3,000-4,000 word assignments to be done. I had a few subjects left. We had massive projects going on in the business, $1 million projects, millions of dollars of projects, which in turn take a lot of persistence because you get towards the end and you just got to get it across the line. And I just was like, I don't have time for this. Where am I going to fit in this 3,000 word assignment? I'm working 60 or 70 hours a week. Yeah. I have a family. I've got a 9-month-old baby. 2 of them. Where am I going to, how can I get this done? It's not going to happen. It just won't work. And is in that moment, I'm like, I started this. I will be finishing this. Make time in your schedule. Yep. And I did. I made time, fitted it all in. And I look back now and think, what you can do is limitless by what you set your mind to, and finished it all. Got all distinctions and high distinctions, did phenomenally well in my MBA and loved the whole thing. And that's probably one of the times where it got really tough and challenging, but persistence was the key. Just starting, or you got a 3,000 word assignment, just start, just keep going, just write 100 words, just do something and be persistent with it. And that I found that is the biggest key that got me through that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic.
It's a big one. That's a big one, right? Doesn't that feel good?
Feels awesome. Feels absolutely phenomenal, to be honest. Yeah, it's great.
Look, it's
so, Martin.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Martin, your book. I haven't read it yet, but I am going to. I reckon it would be a phenomenal book. I like to read 2 non-fiction type books a year to break up reading all of the amazing knowledge books that you read each year. And that's on my list to read this year. How can people get a hold of your book? What's the easiest way for them to get it? And what's the best way we can get a hold of your book?
Well, I reckon the first thing is the first 2 people that write on your post Olympian will get a free copy. So first 2 people on your post right now will get a free copy. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. So just whack that in there, and then Jamie will put us in touch, and I'll get your details. The second way is to log on to theolympian.com.au. So that's theolympian.com.au. That's a website, and that'll take you through to the links to the Amazon store internationally, and also the one here in Australia. Now, just to let you know that every book that's sent at the moment is sent by me personally, so they'll be personally autographed. And if you're on the Amazon store internationally, the freight costs might seem high. That's because the book's coming all the way from Australia. But I believe, as of today, that it's also going to be available on Kindle. So just keep your eye out for that one, because certainly for the international market, that'll be a thing as well. But yeah, the Olympian.com.au. It's a rollicking tale, bit of an ad break. It's a rollicking tale of an Olympian who finds himself in the middle of a terrorist attack. I'm not giving too much away. You can see the scope on the rifle on the front cover, and he does something which then really gives the terrorist mastermind the shits, and he then becomes the target of the terrorist mastermind. And the story weaves in and out over decades of backstories, which actually goes back to the Afghan-Russian Civil War, believe it or not. So it's based on that. There's some interesting stuff that's based on fact, kind of loosely. The Australian Prime Minister at the time, Julia Gillard, gets a run in it, Mick. So as does David Cameron and a few other people. I put words in their mouth. So yeah, it's a great story. The feedback so far has been awesome. I'm just so humbled that the people reading the book have really enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing the work with the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I personally love a good action story that's got some loosely based facts, because it keeps you guessing. Oh, which bit's real? You reckon that's real? That's real. Oh, I wonder if that bit's real. That's phenomenal. I can't wait to read it.
Most excellent. Martin, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been a blast. I know this is one of many, many, many more. This is certainly not the first time you've been on, and definitely, absolutely, completely will not be the last time you're on the show. So we're looking very much forward to having you on again as our guest. As always, it's just been an absolute pleasure. So thank you very much.
Been a pleasure, lads.
Thanks. Thank you, Martin.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
With that said, yeah, go ahead, Mick.
I was going to say, yep, I was going to do exactly that, Jamie. With that said, we'll see you next Saturday. Thank you again for watching. And if you haven't got it, theolympian.com.au, check out Martin's book. It'll be phenomenal.
Go grab a copy. We'll see you in a week.